Welcome to the Panic Room, where we talk about all things panic-inducing. I am the Queen of Panic. Warning, some episodes may contain content that may be disturbing to others. Viewer discretion is advised. Now let the games begin.
Uncle Wes was at it again. When I was 8 years old, my mother predicted the exact time and date I would die. Yet, she failed to predict the amount of times my siblings and I would be kidnapped by our eccentric uncle. Eccentric was a strong word. I preferred psycho. It wasn't unusual for me to spend my Friday night tied to my siblings inside my uncle's storage container. I was 8 years old. I should have been at home watching cartoons or in bed, but I won't say my family was normal. Even if my Uncle Wes didn't take us, the three of us would be accompanying our parents in their shady activities, as long as we stayed in the truck. However, Uncle Wes's monthly kidnappings had become an event. Get up, eat breakfast, go to school. Even when I knew it was coming, I still somehow fell for it. Uncle Wes's cartoon-like schemes to capture us were getting progressively more unhinged. Waking up uncomfortable, my head felt stiff, my eyes glued shut. Swirling my tongue around my mouth, I could taste stale chocolate milk. According to Mom and Dad, if our mouths taste bad, our memories muddled. We are definitely drugged. I did have the semblance of memory, though. I remembered the smell of leather car seats, my cheek uncomfortably glued to a window, my cousin hanging over the front seat as we were slowly driven into the blanketed darkness. My sister's head was bouncing on my shoulder, my hand grazing the lock on the door. But I was so tired. Outside, darkness became light, and we were heading further and further away from what we knew. Home. There was chocolate milk in my lap. My brother curled up next to our psycho cousin. Ugh. Immediately, my parents' training kicked in. Resisting the urge to groan, I inclined my head left and then right. I didn't even have to open my eyes to know where I was. The ice-cold temperature and unearthly silence was enough. When I was younger, the storage container was terrifying, a nightmare that haunted the back of my mind. At 8 years old, however, I had been through this far too many times to be scared. My mouth felt thick and strange, and my memories were fuzzy. Head, torso, legs, arms. I'm okay. Moving my arms, I realized my wrists were restricted behind my back. Fee? My voice echoed. Are you okay?
No.
My sister grumbled.
Leave me alone.
The ropes tangled around our hands were tighter than usual. Rowan? He answered by knocking his head into mine. Ow!
What did I say?
Rowan exploded in a hiss. I could tell he had been waiting every agonizing second to say that. From the sound of his voice, he was awake. Like, awake. Rowan was a light sleeper. Even when our chocolate milk was drugged or we were dosed with sedatives, he was the one who was awake first, which meant the stupid head had been sitting there for who knew how long, perfectly rehearsing the best way to say,
I told you so.
I had to bite back a petty retort. He was right. Yes, I had fallen for an obvious trap, but this time it was easier to believe. I was in class when my elementary school principal strode into our classroom and announced both of my parents had been in a car accident.
It's a trap.
Rowan sat behind me, pencil lodged between his teeth. When I turned in my chair, he mouthed, "It's Uncle Wes." Mom and Dad taught us from a young age to never trust adults. Even adults with kind eyes. Adults we were supposed to trust. Mom said that people in our town wore masks, and no matter how young I was, as a Delacroix, I would always be in danger. My brother knew this after learning the hard way. He befriended a kid with Pokemon cards, initially only growing close to the boy to get a sparkly one. But he ended up actually liking him. The kid invited him to hang out at his place, and my oblivious and naive brother ended up a hostage. It turns out, even innocent bystanders will go to the extreme to get cash. The mayor had a target on our heads, and Rowan was practically a golden goose. If underground thugs wanted his mercy, then they had to bring him a Delacroix head. I rode with Mom on the way back to the kid's house.
Back in a moment, honey.
Mom calmly climbed out of the car. She was gone for maybe a minute. I heard one singular gunshot before she was yanking open the car door. My brother in her arms. Mom wasn't scared or in a rush to get away. She reprimanded Rowan for breaking her #1 rule and then cranked up the radio. After that incident, he trusted no one, not even the lunch ladies. Rowan shot me a glare, but I was already trembling. My teacher's words sending my stomach twisting into knots.
Don't fall for it. Idiot.
Rowan, that is a terrible thing to say.
The teacher scolded him.
Stand up.
Rowan stood up, dragging his feet.
How much did our uncle pay you?
The teacher looked taken aback.
I'm sorry. What?
Rowan stuck out his tongue.
You heard me. How much did Uncle Wes pay you to kidnap us?
Mrs. Carver's eyes darkened.
I appreciate your vivid imagination, young man, but you are being ridiculous.
The boy folded his arms stubbornly.
Mom and Dad wouldn't just get into a car accident. If you think I'm gonna believe that, you must be really stupid.
Mrs. Carver shook her head.
Stand up, Mr. Delacroix, and leave my classroom.
Why? So I can get snatched by my uncle?
The teacher finally snapped, her cheeks going red. She pointed to the door.
Now!
Despite Rowan being very vocal that the school was selling us out to our psycho uncle, we had no choice but to follow the adults' instructions. I was told to stand up, while my brother was gently pulled from the classroom. According to our principal, a family friend would be waiting for us. I didn't want to follow him. Part of me already knew what would be waiting for us, and there was nowhere to run. The police were under the mayor's control, and the mayor wanted our family's head on pikes. Rowan skulked behind me, keeping his distance.
Look.
My brother shoved me, pointing to Principal Carver's bulging back pocket.
I bet that's hush money.
I pushed him back. Shh! 9 times out of 10, Rowan was being dramatic. This time, however, my brother was infuriatingly right. Our cousin greeted us, waving 3 cartons of chocolate milk. Rowan grumbled a bad word. When we twisted around to make a run for it back into school, a scary amount of adults surrounded us, all of whom worked for our uncle.
Hey guys.
His son patted the truck, an evil smile plastered on his lips. There was a strange man next to him. I guessed he was the owner of the car, unless our 8-year-old cousin was an underage driver. I didn't think Uncle Wes would send his son to capture us. Maybe he'd moved up the ranks. His smile brightened when I dropped my backpack.
Wanna go see Mommy and Daddy?
All I had to see was my sister's head against the window. Her eyes were shut, a bruise blossoming on her right temple. Time seemed to stop, and at that moment, I forgot my mother's words.
Don't panic. Never show them you are scared.
Everything I learned from my parents bled away, and I was just a scared kid. I did panic, letting out a shriek. Every kidnapping was closer to Uncle Wes finally snapping and killing us for real. I took 3 steps back in an attempt to run back inside the school, only for grimy arms to wrap around me, violently pushing me into the back of the truck. I was used to being a target, which had aged me well above the age of 8, but this time it was different. Uncle Wes was never this desperate, this violent. This felt too real, like the kidnappings our parents warned us about. When I screamed, slamming my fists into the window, something collided with the back of my head and my face hit the window, pain exploding in a supernova. Leaning over the seat, my cousin snatched the chocolate milk, pierced it with a straw, and handed it over.
Drink.
He giggled with a tone that told me I didn't have a choice.
Try it. It's super chocolatey.
In the corner of my eye, my brother was being shoved into the front seat. The last thing I remember is taking the tiniest sip. It did taste good. But then the world started to spin off kilter. Rowan slowly tipped into the window, his milkshake pulling off the seat. Presently, I could still feel the impact gritting my teeth. That explained my headache. I had grown used to the freezing cold temperatures, the scratchy rope wrapped around my wrist, and the duct tape plastered over my mouth. It was part of being a Delacroix child, and I knew that. The Delacroix were known as the infamous crime family in our town. Mom and Dad were ex-CIA gone rogue, the 2 of them deciding to take over our town's underground. Those words had been drilled into me since I was a little kid. They made sure to reiterate that they were not good people, and sometimes they did very bad things, but they still loved us, which made us targets. The closest we came to being compromised was Elena Maria, a dangerous name, and an old flame of our mother's. Elena wanted Mom for unfinished business, so she targeted my siblings. Luckily, I was sick that day. You would be surprised how corrupt our town is, where it's normal to hand kids over for a decent chunk of cash, especially when everyone wanted the Delacroix family dead. Rowan and Ophelia were snatched on their way home from school. Elena and her cronies manipulated the bus driver to hand them over in broad daylight. The 2 described being shown a scary video, which made their head hurt. Mom said it made sense for Elena to have the technology, since she was too a rogue CIA, though it didn't work great. All it did was cause headaches. After multiple tests and isolating the 2 of them for days, Mom came to the conclusion that Elena was trying to scare her. The videos were just that, videos. Nothing shady, but our parents definitely kept an eagle eye on my siblings for weeks after that. Mom didn't like people fucking with her family, however, even if they were old flames trying to attract her attention. She left after dinner one night with a smile, tucking her knife into her jeans. Mom returned holding a single index finger, a wedding ring still attached. However, it was our own blood who was out for ours. Uncle Wes was Dad's ex-partner in crime until he met Mom. Dad tried to kill his own brother, and Wes built his own business, with his prime goals to take over the business and destroy our father's life. We were part of that, so of course, his 3 children were caught in the crossfire. Which meant every month or so, we would find ourselves once again at the mercy of Uncle Wes. The thing about Uncle Wes is, though, he's all bark and no bite. Uncle Wes was more of a Doofenshmirtz than a joker. When we were younger, Uncle Wes was a little more lenient. Instead of a storage container, we would be held inside this grotty kitchen, handcuffed to a wall. However, he did provide us with cookies and juice boxes. Dad's main fear was Uncle Wes influencing us to come over to his side of the family. But again, Wes was one big goof. He was a large man with a potbelly, 2 chins, and a grotty mustache. Imagine Santa, but mix him with a cryptid and a criminal. He had abnormally large eyes and yellow teeth, a permanent grin splitting his mouth apart. It was supposed to be intimidating, and it was to others, sure, but we already knew he wasn't a threat. Wes was fully mute, so he let his scar speak for him. I found myself wondering if he did it to himself, or maybe the perpetrator was my father. Uncle Wes wore this scar like a trophy, and he was right to. That thing was grotesque. I had witnessed some of his executions, the victims begging for their lives. Unlike my parents' way of taking care of people, his tactics were a lot more brutal. Uncle Wes didn't say a word, which was scarier, choosing a baseball bat wrapped in spikes or an axe. He always made a mess. My eyes were blindfolded before I could see the real grisly stuff, though all I really needed to hear was the crunch of the thick blade slicing through the skull, the screaming and begging coming to an abrupt halt. Thump. The body hitting the ground, always stomach first. If I really concentrated, I could hear the wet splash of blood seeping out of them. When the blindfold was removed from my eyes, one of his cronies would be cleaning up blood and bits of skull with a scarlet mop. I think I was desensitized to blood at this point, or the color in red in general. I just pretended it was a whole lot of cherry juice. But sometimes I would crack, especially hearing the crack of a gunshot or the sickening squish of a knife penetrating flesh. Fee stayed very still and didn't speak, and Rowan cried. He was getting better at tolerating it, but my brother really hated blood. Uncle Wes used that to his advantage, so we always had a front row seat at every execution. The three of us awkwardly tied back to back. We didn't have to see to get traumatized. It was what we heard, and the inability to know what was going to happen next. If our uncle's axe was swinging our way. It wasn't Uncle Wes who carried out executions. I grew up watching my cousins doing his dirty work. As Wes's children, they were automatically part of the family business. Liam was our older cousin by 3 months. A scowling redhead with his own scar, self-inflicted with a box cutter. I watched it happen. I also watched him almost faint from blood loss. Maddie was the younger, deadlier cousin, who was more terrifying than her criminal parents put together. My younger cousin reminded me of a snake, narrowed eyes and pursed lips like she was spitting venom. I watched her slit a man's throat for getting her name wrong. He called her Madeline. Compared to his sociopathic daughter and unhinged son, Uncle Wes was one big marshmallow. But that didn't make him less of a threat. I had no doubt he would have zero problem brutally killing us when we were of age. After all, being a kid is a luxury. Nobody, not even the big scary criminals, can lay a finger on you. I'll start by saying neither I nor my siblings were born into the Delacroix family. We were adopted together from the same children's home at the age of 5 years old. I remember being transfixed by the woman who would become my mother, a beautiful redhead, appearing in front of me with a smile I trusted. She was already hand in hand with Rowan and Ophelia. Rowan was a celebrity at Bolivia House. At least his parents were. The other kids were obsessed with finding out who his real parents were, trying to match his mop of dark curls to any famous movie stars. Despite choosing to stay anonymous, Rowan's bio parents sent him cash and toys every month, which skyrocketed him up the orphanage popularity ladder. He didn't want cash, though. I would regularly hear him asking the house mother if he could meet them. It was always a stern-sounding no. When he asked why, Rowan got the same answer. Because they don't want you. To a 5-year-old, that's like telling them the world is ending. Ophelia was the troublemaker who regularly ended up in the house mother's office after scribbling on the walls and filling the bathtub with frogs. Mom said she fell in love with the two of them when they first walked in, witnessing them play fighting in the main hallway. Unbeknownst to our mother, they were actually fighting, trying to rip each other's hair out. Rowan had the newest Pokemon game, and Ophelia wanted to play. The boy had anger problems, and Ophelia didn't take no for an answer. Chaos ensued. Rowan and Ophelia were known to get on each other's nerves, so adopting them together was a choice. I tried to break up their fight, getting shoved over in the process. So I threw a book at Rowan's head. Ophelia found it funny, so she too hit him with a book. Rowan retaliated by throwing an entire toy box at us. Mom appeared in the doorway and asked if the three of us wanted to go home with her. In our mother's words,
That was it. From the moment I saw you, I knew you were my children.
the rest was history. Now we had parents, and those parents happened to be part of a town infamous crime family. Maybe that's why our cousins hated us. We weren't technically Delacroix blood. When the storage container opened with a loud groan, I knew it was Liam. My cousin always announced his presence by whistling. His footsteps unnerved me, dancing towards us. Light seeped inside the storage container, illuminating his face. Liam was 8 years old, skinny, and did not resemble his father or little sister in the slightest. He was a sandy blonde, while the two of them were freckled redheads. Liam's face reminded me of pizza, specifically pepperoni. His bright yellow Adventure Time sweatshirt really upped the intimidating factor. Rowan scoffed, muttering something under his breath. My cousin's head snapped up, eyes narrowing.
I'm sorry. Did you say something, orphan?
Wow, I've never heard that one before.
Liam curled his lip.
I said, what did you say?
I knew Rowan wouldn't hold back. He surprised me with a snort.
I said, aren't you a little too old for Adventure Time? You need to clean your ears out if you can't hear me.
My brother laughed, and to my surprise, Ophelia joined in nervously. When Rowan leaned forward, I was thrown back. I could hear the smirk in my brother's voice.
Shouldn't you be watching adult TV shows by now?
Liam's mouth stretched into a terrifying grin. Instead of responding, he pulled something from his pocket, and I felt Rowan stiffen. Playtime was over, and now we were playing like our criminal parents. An unwelcome shiver skittled down my spine. I saw a flash of silver, and then the curve of the blade.
My father is out on business.
Liam announced, casually spinning the handle between his fingers.
So I figured, why not play with my favorite cousins?
I found my voice, pulling at my restraints. No wonder this particular kidnapping wasn't like the others. It wasn't even Uncle Wes who took us. Wait, you were the one who paid our teacher? The boy nodded, taking a step towards us. He was waving the knife around too much. If he wasn't careful, he was going to stab himself in the eye.
Yup, I had a little help from my dad's friend.
He flashed me a smile, his eyes shining. Liam was trying way too hard to be his father. It was painful to watch. Still, though, his annoying laugh made me nervous. Mom has yet to teach us how to untie knots around our wrists.
Do you want to guess what I'm going to do to my favorite cousins?
Force us to watch a kid's cartoon?
Rowan mumbled. I wasn't expecting Liam to kick my brother in the gut hard enough to knock the breath from his lungs. Twisting my head, I saw my cousin's shadow lunging forwards. He kicked him again and again and again until Rowan was wheezing, spitting blood. Liam didn't stop until my brother was silent. I could still hear his breaths, but they were labored, his clammy hands trembling.
Nope.
Liam laughed.
Try again.
Ophelia squeaked, and I sensed the impact of his shoe protruding into her gut. She let out a startled breath, her head knocking against mine. I was next. Mom told me how to disguise pain and pretend it didn't exist, but she has yet to train my mind to think like hers. I felt weak, pathetic. As a Delacroix daughter, I was too young to learn how to fight back. That's what Dad said, so I had to take it. The first kick wasn't that bad. I sucked in my tummy and took a deep breath. The second kick knocked it all out of me, and I understood what pain really was. Stubbing my toe was not pain. Falling down the stairs was not pain. Even breaking my arm was not pain. Pain was endless and cruel, wrenching sensations of my body being battered. It was relentless, and a new word blossomed into mind. I had never known it myself, only heard my words express it. Agony. Agony was intentional, and every kick was meant to hurt. I started to scream, my cry choking into sobs. But I didn't have enough breath to scream, breath to cry. The third kick was aimed at my face, bursting my nose on impact, my head hanging. The world seemed to slow down, and suddenly all I knew was pain. All I knew was reality of jerking left to right, the salty taste of blood dripping down my chin. I was barely conscious when my cousin grabbed my ponytail and wrenched my head forward. The world was spinning. The sudden prick of his knife grazing the curve of my throat sent my mind into overdrive.
Your parents took something special from my uncle.
Liam murmured, jerking my head left and right, his fingernails digging into my chin. The boy was studying me, sticking his fingers into my mouth and prying it open. When I bit him, he cocked his head, confused.
Wow, that's weird.
Liam shuffled back, tightening his grip on the knife.
You don't smell of the pit.
He tilted his head, a dark twinkle in his eye.
Why?
He prodded at my eye, and this time I let out a hiss, lunging forward. Liam only had to remind me of his weapon. Holding it up with one hand, he muffled my shriek with the other.
Shh! You're annoying me.
Liam stroked the blade just like his father, copying Uncle Wes's unnerving grin.
Answer correctly, dearest cousin, and maybe I won't slice your throat open.
He slowly removed his hand.
Are we clear?
I could only nod, spluttering out a sob my mother would be ashamed of. Liam pressed the blade to my throat, teasing the teeth.
You understand me, little bitch?
His question didn't fully register, because by then, heavy footsteps were outside. I saw Liam's lips form the words, but his voice never hit my ears. No, it did. I just couldn't recall the words. They were there 1 minute and gone the next. Liam definitely spoke, and I could have sworn his eyes pricked with fear. My psycho cousin was never scared. Ocean waves was all I could hear, enveloped in white noise. If you would like to submit your stories, please check out the Panic Within subreddit. I go over those stories that are submitted, and I go ahead and I narrate them. I say go over, but I narrate all of them. So if you are interested in something like that, go ahead and take a look in the description, and you'll find the link there. We also have a Discord. You can come and hang out and get spooky with me and other narrators. We post new content, up-and-coming videos, promotions, and we also just hang out and chat, and you can come and hang out with us there. If you're interested in that, link is also in the description below. And last but not least, if you are interested in doing a collab with the King of Panic or myself, you can absolutely reach out. If you're another creator, you can do one on our channel, we can do one with you. We are completely open for collab as of right now. Looking for new stuff to do and very excited for anybody who reaches out. The best way to do that is through Twitter or Discord. I do check Instagram and I will get back. It just might take a little longer because I'm super bad at that, but I've been trying to be better. So if you do reach out there, even if it takes a couple days, I'll be there. But like I said, we're excited. So please definitely reach out and we're looking forward to it. And as always...
Thank you for visiting the Panic Room. You have successfully made it to the next portion of your tour. Please stay tuned for your next prompt. Click the like button and subscribe to receive notifications for when the next portion of your tour is ready to join. Thank you for watching. Don't let the panic drown you.